Buy the dip. How many times have you heard that statement? Buy the dip. Buy it when it's in the dip. Now, let's talk about that, guys. Let's take a look at what we're actually talking about as an investor when we say buy the dip. If you're new here, of course, hit that subscribe, hit that notify, and of course, hit that like button. We can get 40. Been doing great so far. It's great for us. It helps us a ton. So hit that button, guys. Of course, also leave a comment down below of what you personally are looking at for investing in this dip or dropping market. So let's take a look at what we actually mean by buying the dip. Now, I see people in YouTube videos kind of criticizing investors for telling people to buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. You know, buying the dip is bad. It's not good practice. When we actually say buy the dip, what we're talking about is that you start to watch a product drop. And personally, what I do is I take a product that I'm interested in, and I put it on the side, and I continue to watch it. Either I use PokeData.io, I use TCG Player, I even go to eBay and watch that product in the sold listings to see what it is doing, because that is going to determine how and when I will purchase that item. Now, when I'm buying the dip, like we are currently in this market, everything's kind of dropping. If you saw when I was talking in the previous video, which I will put up above, I was talking about Sun and Moon products, how they had dropped and continued to drop and then picked up. That is what we're talking about when we say buy the dip. You don't want to buy when it's on a down slide. If you're seeing it just going straight down towards the floor, you don't want to buy at any point inside of that. You want to see that item drop, and then kind of smooth out. When you see that item go flat, that is when I start personally watching that item extremely closely, because what I'm waiting for is when it flatlines, and it won't stay flatlined for a large amount of time. It'll make a decision on which way it's going to go. If that item sits there and stays flat and curls up, so you start seeing an upward movement. Good example of that was Darkness Ablaze here recently on TCG Player. It started at 180 and it landslided straight down to $96 on TCG Player. You could have bought Darkness Ablaze for $96 a booster box. We have not ever seen that set that low. Since the release, it has never been that low. It got caught in the craziness, it went straight up, and it's been sitting around $200 for the last year and 2 months, 3 months. What we've watched, though, is if you've watched, look at the chart. I'm going to put it right next to me here. What has Darkness Ablaze done? Gone straight down to 96. Then what did it start doing? It recovered. It is going back up slowly, but it's going in the upward direction. This is where I would purchase that item. I want to see it hit its low point, flat line, let it sit there at its flat point, let it make its decision on where it's going. Is it going up? Is it going to continue to go down? When I see that uptrend, when I see consistent days of uptrend, that is when you should purchase that item. That's what we're talking about when we say buy the dip. Don't buy it in a down slope. If you buy it there, you don't know where the floor is. You don't know how far it's going to go down. Could Darkness Ablaze gone all the way down to $86 a booster box and sat there for 2 years? Absolutely. We don't know. We don't know how far these products are going. Same with Sun and Moon. Same with XY Evolution. Same with Black and White. All the way all through. Even Vintage, this works. Watch these items go down. If they are consistently going up, of course, purchase whenever you want, because they're probably going to continue on their trends. But that's what we're talking about when we say buy the dip. We're not saying, I always like that when I see a YouTube person saying buying the dip is stupid and dangerous and you should never do that. You should. That is when you're going to get the best money spent. If you sit there and try and time things and you wait too long, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to pay too much potentially, especially in modern. We have a good opportunity that when these market prices, right now is the best time to be watching items to purchase. Should you be purchasing everything right now? No. Should you be purchasing some items as you see them uptrending? Yes. We've got Evolving Skies now that we just purchased booster boxes of. We're purchasing items as we see that item go up. Could Evolving Skies drop a little bit more? Absolutely. It's a potential. We're going to see what this next reprint's going to go. But It's the hottest set. It's the best set of Sword and Shield thus far. The top set of 2021. Is that set going to drop way low and stay there? Absolutely not. It's going to go down and back up. Purchase it right when you see it going up. That's what we're looking for. If you're feeling like being risky, do it on the flat line. Second you see that item flatline, it could go either way. At that point, it's a 50-50. If you see it's at a price that you're comfortable with at that flat line, purchase it. Tendencies are is that it will continue on flat. It may drop a little bit more and then go back up. It may go up from the flat. But typically your flat lines, when they hit that point, are darn near the floor. That tendency is that becomes your floor at that flat point. And it's just a matter of time before either number one in Pokemon World, it runs out of stock and the demand is still there. The supply is dropping, and that flat line is where the demand finally caught the supply, and there's going to be an uptick. The supply is going to start dwindling as more people open it, and the demand continues to go on that product, and it goes up. You got to remember, Pokemon is one of those very interesting items. It's not that you're just dealing with like a stock with a set volume, or you're not necessarily dealing with a commodity at all times where it's continually replenishing. It goes through a transition phase where at first it's a commodity. And what I mean by a commodity is it's continually being replenished. In the first 2 to 3 years of the life of a Pokemon set, it's a commodity. At any point you could get more. It could replenish the supply end of it and drop or go above the demand, and then the price will continue to drop. It's the same in farming. It's the same in any kind of oil, lumber, any of these things. As the supply continues to go down and demand continues to stay high, more is produced in order to meet the demand. Now, the interesting thing is that Pokemon will eventually go from a commodity to a fixed item, such as a stock or such as a, how do I want to say it, just a normal warehouse good. Eventually, there will be no replenishment. It goes through a transition and where it becomes a stagnant supply with no replenishment. And when that happens, that is when your best opportunities will unfold for Pokemon. Definitely watch for that. That's why we say it's really hard to purchase anything above MSRP prior to that while it's in the commodity stage. Because when it's a commodity stage, at least your MSRP is kind of your floor. It can go below that for a little bit and come right back to it pretty shortly. But it's always going to get restocked, guys. Booster boxes of Evolving Skies are going to come back. We're probably going to see a reprint here coming up in the next 2 months. And then we're going to see one probably around its 18-month-old period. Just like we're seeing with Darkness Ablaze. You know, Sword and Shield, of course. Many people don't realize that Sword and Shield will be retired here on January 20th. The other item that we're not looking at yet when it comes to the Pokemon TCG, and it's something that we don't talk about very much even as an investor currently, the return of tournament play. We are going to see tournament play come back supposedly in 2022. If that happens, we will see just common cards, you know, reverse rares, common cards, trainer cards, some of these cards that have not had any value for the last year and a half will begin to have value. And that's something that we definitely need to look at and watch. Definitely going to change the focus when we come back into that to see maybe these piles of bulk cards that we have sitting here might get some valuable cards inside of it that go for $2 to $3, just depending on where the market sits or how the tournament players are using it. So, like I said, these are all things that you have to take into consideration when you're talking about Pokemon TCG and buying the dip. Yes, watch the dip. Make sure when you're buying the dip, you watch it flatline and then start to turn back up. We're saying buy that dip point where it's starting to come back, because that is where you're going to get the best money, and you know that the product itself is going to increase in value. So personally, I buy the dip. I don't buy the downfall. I buy the dip when it starts to come back up. That's what you need to look for. That's the tip of what we're talking about. That is where we're actually suggesting that you do that. And once again, don't be afraid to, even on these downslides, a modern Pokemon TCG, if you can get a booster box under $120 to $115, it will recover. It will come back. It's not going to stay down below that price, especially when the set goes out of print. Got to remember, it's 2 years at most. That set goes out of print, and it'll start to fall. As it gets past its wave systems, it'll come back up. Supply will start to get chewed away, and the demand won't keep up. So all these things are things to keep into consideration, but definitely do consider buying the dip. Watch the dip and wait for that little bit of an upturn to make that final decision for yourself and what you're comfortable with. Other than that, we're just going to go ahead and close her up today. If you're new here, of course, just like always, hit that subscribe, hit that notify, and of course, hit that like, guys. It helps us out. We can get 40, no problem. You guys are great. Thank you very much for watching. And if you do like this kind of content, as always, check out these 2 videos over here. I will put them up for you. And we will see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.